Hello, thank you for joining us this evening for the eighth webinar in the series Living and Learning Empathy in COVID-19. This webinar series is a collaboration between our community and that of the two UNESCO chairs based at NUI Galway and Penn State University. My name is Lorraine McElrath and I'm based at the Institute for Life Course and Society at NUI Galway, where I direct the Community Knowledge Initiative, and I'm delighted to be here with you today. This webinar, entitled Supporting Vulnerable Students During COVID-19, aims to showcase the University of Sanctuary and the Alive Volunteering Programme, both based at the Community Knowledge Initiative at the Institute for Life Course and Society in our university on the west coast of Ireland. Today, we aim to highlight how both initiatives have responded in different ways to students during this period of self-isolation to ensure their safety and ongoing success in higher education. We have also developed new measures to honour and reward students who have been volunteering in community and society throughout the academic year. So you're all very welcome, and we all hope you'll enjoy this webinar. We feel that even though we've had to self-isolate during this challenging period, that it has had a profound impact on how we view each other and maybe embedding or making a culture of kindness and a culture of empathy more profound or more voiced even during this challenging time. A little background to our work in the Community Knowledge Initiative at NUI Galway. I guess it's underpinned by a culture of empathy and kindness. The CKI, the Community Knowledge Initiative, was funded in 2004 by the Atlantic Philanthropies. We were set up to foster and embed a culture and ethos of civic engagement across the university. A core function of the Community Knowledge Initiative has been to educate students for their role as engaged and active citizens in community and society, and to ensure that our university is resourceful to community and society at local, national and global levels. The NUI Galway Strategic Plan and Values also centralises the importance of civic engagement, a culture of volunteering, partnership with community, engaged research, service learning, as a hallmark of the university experience and practice. And over the last 15 years, the CKI has established a number of different and diverse pathways that connect the university to community and society. And this evening, we're just going to look at two of those pathways that have had a profound impact on our practice. So this evening, we're going to look at the work of the University of Sanctuary, and in particular, what it's done during this period of self-isolation, and the very successful Alive volunteering programme and the measures that it has taken to work with students during this period. So we have a very impressive lineup of speakers, and I'm delighted that they're all here with us today. These speakers include perspectives from colleagues at NUI Galway, students of NUI Galway and the wider community. So in a little while, we'll hear more from Aidan Hart, Coordinator of the University of Sanctuary at the University, Mitchell Dubé, student of the University, Suzanne McCain, Galway City Partnership and a fantastic colleague and partner to the University, Lorraine Tansey, who's the Alive Volunteer Programme Coordinator at NUI Galway, and Dara Kearns, who's another fantastic student of ours at NUI Galway and a student intern with the Alive Volunteering Programme. But first, let's move to Aidan Hart, who is the coordinator of the University of Sanctuary with the CKI based at NUI Galway. A little bit about Aidan. He's a graduate from NUI Galway with a BA in Geography, Sociology and Politics and an MA in Public Activism, Advocacy and Activism. Aidan represents the University of Sanctuary on the Galway City Community Network. He's one of the directors of a mock LGBT+, and represents Galway City Community Network on the board of Galway City Partnership. Aidan is very active in research, and his research interests include youth and critical civic engagement, migration and international protection, as well as rights-based initiatives. So Aidan, you're very welcome this evening. And my question to you this evening for everybody is, can you describe what is the University of Sanctuary and what special initiatives that it has taken during this COVID-19 period?
Thanks, Lorraine, and welcome to everybody. So just a bit of background about the University of Sanctuary. So the Places of Sanctuary is a UK and Irish-based network of towns, cities and local communities which aims to promote a culture of welcome and inclusiveness for asylum seekers and refugees. NUI Galway also includes Irish travellers in our remit, as we feel that the same barriers of societal exclusion and racism perpetuate travellers' peripheral positioning within Irish society. And we feel that we can challenge those barriers through our actions as a steering committee. So we launched our initiative in February 2018, and since then we have grown as a steering committee to include representatives from every college within the university. We also include student societies and the Students' Union. And we make no decisions without consulting our colleagues in the international protection and traveller communities. We are supported by the University Management Team, the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Campus Committee and the Galway University Foundation, and we align with the University's strategic plan of openness and respect, and we're based in the Community Knowledge Initiative and the Access Centre. Since our launch, we have been working closely with the community partners, including the Galway City Partnership and the Galway Traveller Movement, and it is this building of mutual trust and empathy which has allowed for such a collective and collaborative response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So as you are aware, as we are all aware, since March, NUI Galway has been closed and most students have left Cara Village student accommodation. The spaces left have since been occupied by HSE workers, international students and Irish students who were unable to return home for whatever reason. The university, through collaboration with the University Management Team, Student Services, the Chaplaincy and the Community Knowledge Initiative and the Access Centre, were in a position to offer accommodation to 8 of our 12 international protection students who were residing in local direct provision centres. The other 4 had subsequently or consequently found private rented accommodation or also alternative accommodation with friends. So after consulting with local direct provision management and the Department of Justice, the students moved into Cara Village and will remain there as long as the current governmental restrictions are lifted. We have received guarantees from the direct provision management that the students will be able to return to their respective rooms when the centres are open and the restrictions are lifted. It was this building again of trust over the last number of years that the students felt comfortable in transitioning to the accommodation on offer from the university. As well as that, we identified technological disadvantages for those from disadvantaged backgrounds, and we decided to emulate the Tech to Students initiative, which is an initiative rolled out by Trinity Access and Camera Education Ireland. So at a local level, we are in the middle of collaborating with the Galway City Partnership, the Galway Chamber of Commerce, the Insight Institute, the Galway Traveller Movement, Camera Education Ireland, the Galway City Community Network, the Daesh Schools Network, and we're hoping to identify students experiencing technological disadvantage through our networks. One of our key partners, the Galway Traveller Movement, are currently undertaking a survey to identify traveller students' needs who, for whatever reason, do not have access to sufficient technological supports during the COVID-19 pandemic. Seeing as this is a long-term project, we are hoping to coordinate our efforts via the Galway City Partnership so that we do not have crossover of various initiatives so that we can definitely identify those most vulnerable and technology and to ensure that they receive those supports. As well as that, on top of that, I suppose, we've been working with the Careers Development Centre at NUI Galway in creating a workshop series to prepare graduate students from minority backgrounds for the Irish labour market, of course, when the labour market opens again and society opens as well. We're also building upon pre-existing links with the presidential Goshka programme by introducing a specific element, which is the Wavelengths programme, with our colleagues in the Alive Volunteering Centre. And the Wavelength initiative is specifically aimed at asylum seekers and refugees aged between 18 to 25. And the Wavelength program promotes civic engagement and personal development. The key element of this, of course, is that participants do not have to be students of the university, which I feel and we feel as a committee that it is a good bridge between the university and our surrounding communities. As well as that, and finally, I have to say, we will be launching our 2020-2021 scholarship program in early July, which will include 12 scholarships for courses at NUI Galway for both undergraduate and postgraduate courses. The scholarship program will be open to asylum seekers, refugees, vulnerable immigrant groups, and Irish travellers, and we hope that through increased participation at third level education, and that specifically at NUI Galway, that we can increase that empathy and mutual respect and understanding. So thanks, Lorraine.
Aidan, thank you very much. And I think you've given us a very real sense of empathy in action and moving our work maybe from the rhetoric to the real. Thank you so much. Next, we move on to Mitchell Dubé. And Mitchell is originally from Zimbabwe, but currently resides in the Eglinton Hotel, which is a direct provision centre based in Salt Hill in Galway. Mitchell is a first-year biomedical science student, and she hopes for the future to move into the pharmaceutical industry. They'll be lucky to have her. And she's supported by the University of Sanctuary. So, Mitchell, my question to you is this evening is, what has your experience been of the University of Sanctuary, and what can we do to ensure that the rights of migrants are protected in Ireland?
Hi, my name is Mitchell, and since lockdown was enforced back in March, I found it quite hard to study since I had exams coming up, and direct provision is not exactly an ideal place to have exams in because it's so crowded. You have other roommates. And then I got a call from Aiden asking me if I'll be interested in moving to Corrie Village for the duration of the COVID-19 period. And then I said yeah, because it was a great opportunity for me, and it meant I get to study very well since libraries were closed and everything, and that was really nice. And I had my exams quite easily. Everything was smooth sailing. And how can the University of Sanctuary ensure that the rights of migrants are protected in Ireland? Well, I think there should be an urgency in dealing with migrants. Like, laws take time to be passed here, and I know things can't just be passed very quickly, but it doesn't have to take very long because it's so discouraging for migrants to hear about something, like to be hopeful about a law being passed and then they have to wait 2 years for that to happen. So that would be great. And again, for the non-speaking English migrants, it would be really great for them to get extensive English courses, because as much as they do the short courses that are available right now, they're not enough, because they get left out, and they get restricted in accessing third level education because it's not enough for them to actually pursue that because they don't speak English very well. So I think it would be really nice for the university to offer extensive English courses to make sure that no one gets left out of tertiary education. Thank you.
Mitchell, many thanks, and for highlighting frustrations related to maybe legal processes and maybe creating policy for members of all migrant backgrounds to easily attend higher education in Ireland, because we know that there's a policy and a kind of a legal challenge and barrier in terms of people from international protection backgrounds being categorised as international students, and then the fee for that being a barrier in itself to attend third level. Mitchell, thank you so much for your perspectives. Next, we move on to Suzanne McCain, who I mentioned earlier works in the community sector and has been a fantastic colleague and partner to NUI Galway for years and years. She has worked in the community sector for approximately 15 years, and she has been a great partner to the University of Sanctuary. She currently works with the Galway City Partnership on two actions. The first as a community development worker with the Social Inclusion Community Activation Network, working with community groups with the social inclusion focus on the west side of the city. And she's also the coordinator of the Bridge project, which is building a receptive, integrated Galway of equals. This is a European funded project to support and empower third country nationals living in Galway city and county. So Suzanne, you're extremely welcome here this evening, and thank you for giving us your time and wisdom. And we would like to know from you, how has the NUI Galway Sanctuary Initiative affected the wider community in Galway? And what more can we do as a university in the region?
Thanks, Lorraine. 15 years, yikes. But I suppose that means I'm in a good position to comment on the impact of the community of or the University of Sanctuary from a before and after perspective. Largely, I'd be talking about my work or my experience working with people seeking asylum and refugees in Galway City. Now, this has always been challenging, but particularly when trying to access post-leaving cert education. And the Bridge project kind of came on board around the same time as the University of Sanctuary. And the aim of the Bridge project is to inform and support and empower people seeking asylum and refugees and third country national migrants in Galway. And I think that this work fits very nicely in with the work of the University of Sanctuary. And I thought I would comment on the impact of the community by kind of identifying a couple of themes. And the first theme that I picked was inclusivity. And I find sometimes when supports are put in place for vulnerable groups, they can be done without any consultation or involvement from the groups themselves. And the fact that community representation is embedded in University of Sanctuary and has been from the start, it speaks to the ethos of the movement, and it's a very powerful message to send out into the community. And very much linked with this, I think, is the fact that the movement targets people seeking asylum, refugees, people from the travelling community, and undocumented people living in Galway City and in Ireland in general. But again, from a community perspective, we find very often vulnerable groups are almost pitted against each other and in kind of divided. So this bringing the vulnerable groups together, it makes for a powerful statement and a stronger movement to make changes. And I think very closely linked to the theme of inclusivity is the outreach. And the University of Sanctuary has very much met communities where they're at. And for us, we've been in the direct provision centres with members of the University of Sanctuary talking about different initiatives, the steering committee, the English language classes, Sanctuary and Politics, the Access Office. And I think this is evidenced because you can see the involvement of the community in the initiatives run, but also, like, I think applications for the Access Office, there was a significant increase from asylum seekers applying to get on the course. But beyond that, there are a certain number of people in the community that their path won't take them to NUIG. But the fact that they know they're there, and what's more is you care they're there, that is the message that I think is most powerful by the outreach work done by the sanctuary. And again, linked in with that is the elements of support and empowerment. So, for example, it's not just a case of putting on an English language course. There's a realization that more supports are needed, and it can be practical supports like the help with transport or the food vouchers, and then the wraparound supports, having someone there to greet people when they first arrive and show them where their class is on and give them a name and number if they need anything. That is just vital for bringing the community in and bringing them with you. And then I think particularly the sanctuary in politics, that goes to empower people to become their own advocates and maybe even advocate on behalf of their own community if that's the route they want to go down. And none of these supports have stopped because of COVID. We're currently trying to put the sanctuary in politics in an online version so that support can still be there. Aidan and Mitchell have also spoken about the supports for the students, the outreach and making available accommodation, which is vital. And I coming from my own perspective as a worker, the University of Sanctuary, it's been such a huge support in terms of me when people come to me with one-to-one with queries, I can literally direct them to somebody in NUIG and say, oh, Aidan, can you sort this? Or Imelda, can you look after this person? But also then there's the support for me in my work. So, for example, when we had World Refugee Day celebrations in the past, Cell Explorers came on board, and they trained a number of participants from the direct provision centres to be volunteers, and then together they delivered a program for kids. And that wasn't just a one-off thing. There was summer camps, there was other things. So there's a number of ways that this initiative is reaching out into the community and making tangible differences there. And again, the Bridge project is working with NUIG students on different projects. We had OT students do a wellness resource pack together with people living in direct provision, and it's a nice partnership. And I suppose, where would I like to see this go? I would like to see it continue, and as I said, I've been working in this sector for quite a while, and I would like to say that during that time there have always been supportive individuals in NUIG who have tried. But I just feel with this initiative, there's been a shift, and instead of trying to sneak in the back door, the front doors have been opened and we're being welcomed in. And I don't think you can underestimate the impact that has to a community. And also for other institutions as an example of what can be achieved, that we don't have to wait for the powers to be on high to change things. We can start locally. And Mitchell said about, waiting 2 years for a law to change, even when it has been changed and come into play. So we can start now. And I'd love to build on the work of the University of Sanctuary, the schools of Sanctuary, and I'm not sure if it's the right term, but to see a post-leaving cert institutions of Sanctuary. And I think NUIG would be well placed to guide these institutions, because you've been there, you've done that, and then take it a step further to make Galway a community of Sanctuary. And I just really feel that this is a powerful movement that can take us to really good places in the community. So I feel the world is our oyster, so to speak. Thank you very much.
Lovely, Suzanne. And I think we've got a very interesting 360-degree view, or a tripartite perspective, from students, the community and the coordinator on the University of Sanctuary. And seeing empathy in practice, if you like. And I think probably myself and Aidan in particular would like to maybe honour the motivation of leadership within NUI Galway, including the President and Vice President for Equality, Diversity and Inclusion, along with the University Management team, in terms of their support for developing a culture of sanctuary at NUI Galway. It has been very much a grassroots, bottom up as well as a top down initiative that Suzanne has rightly indicated has opened the gates or opened the doors of the university. I think Suzanne said some lovely things there about this initiative. Not only is it embedded well within the university, but it's embedded well within the community, and that together we're trying to bring groups together to make changes to allow more equitable access to higher education. And Suzanne also touched on that kind of empathy in action again. Maybe people people on the outside of the university knowing that we care within the inside of the university, and chipping away to create more equitable pathways. Aidan has touched on 4 initiatives that he's been working hard with multiple stakeholders over the last while, including the provision of housing to students in direct provision to make their lives a little more safer, the provision of technology and hardware to young people in the wider community that need hardware to continue their education, volunteering in the Goshka Wavemakers initiative around civic engagement and personal development, and the 12 scholarship opportunities, which has been a significant move for the university of late, and it has been a large increase in 2020 in terms of our provision of free fees, so no fees for entry for people in the international protection and traveller community, alongside a stipend for their participation in the university. So keep an eye on the University of Sanctuary website for details on how you might apply for those in each of the 4 colleges. We're going to slightly turn now a different direction, and that's over to the area of volunteering, but I think you'll see that there's overlap and collaboration between Sanctuary and the Alive volunteering programme in terms of the creation of volunteering opportunities for students in Sanctuary to participate in. So my thanks to Aidan and Suzanne and Mitchell for that fantastic perspective. And in terms of volunteering, we're going to move to Lorraine Tansey. Lorraine is our student volunteer coordinator based again at the CKI at the Institute of Life Course and Society. Lorraine has a Master's of Education that she gained from the University of British Columbia in Canada, with a speciality in the internationalisation of higher education. She earned her BA from NUI Galway in Legal Science, Sociology and Political Studies. She also gained her LLB from NUI Galway, and she's in the throes of undertaking her doctoral studies at Queen's University in Belfast. So I'd like to welcome Lorraine here this evening, and for giving generously of her time. And my first question to Lorraine is, Lorraine, what is the Alive programme for those people attending who may not know, and what measures have been taken during this period of COVID-19 to support and reward student volunteers in Galway and more nationally?
Great. Well, thank you so much, Lorraine, for that lovely introduction. It's just a pleasure to be on this webinar with this great panel this evening, and to share with you a little bit of the work that we've been doing. And I suppose I was popping up some lovely images I have that students have actually created. We can't be in Orris-na-Mauchline face to face with students, but we are surrounding ourselves with their work and with their art, and getting to see them virtually, which has been extremely powerful and important for us. It's important for us in our work, and of course for the students to connect with us. So what is Alive? Well, we're proud to say that we're a long-standing integral part of the student experience at NUI Galway. Established back in 2003, the initial idea was to connect students with community groups, nonprofits, NGOs, community development projects, schools, hospitals, and provide those safe spaces for students to volunteer and really realise their civic engagement ambitions. It grew from that. The following year of our pilot, we really grew to acknowledge the campus volunteering and the rich culture of giving that existed within the student community, with societies, mentoring, sports, peer-assisted learning. I was so glad that you mentioned Cell Explorers, science outreach programs. Yesterday I got to meet the team that are involved in the philosophy outreach program. So really, I suppose what we've seen with Alive down through the years is not only this external community that's really solidified around us, but this internal community or wide range of volunteer pathways, if you like. So that's a brief overview of Alive, and what we essentially do day to day is connect students with meaningful volunteer roles. The way in which we've been able to achieve this really effectively is by linking up nationally through studentvolunteer.ie. So if you like, there's a me on each campus who, through our network, have developed this online platform. And this has been a virtual space where community groups can post their volunteer roles, and then students can see these, sign up, log their hours, complete a reflection. So what was those experiences like? And through that whole virtual space, be active in community, see the different types of range of activities that they can join and be involved in, and make it happen, make those connections real. We're proud to say that we have, on average, every year, about 1,000 students complete an online reflection about their volunteering experience. So, for example, we would have students passionate about the environment, volunteering with projects that maybe are focused on those with disabilities, international projects. We've got lots of students who are passionate about health and well-being. So all of those different interest areas that they have are catered for at studentvolunteer.ie. One of the key things that we provide in the Alive programme is a training component. I suppose we've always been keenly aware that students have this passion and hunger for community involvement, and what they'd like to do is enhance and grow their skills. So down through the years, we've offered various different initiatives, from things like anti-racism training with the Galway One World Centre, to things like fundraising training. We've also done initiatives around leadership. This year, we're really excited that we have a number of students who are taking on a training program around design thinking for the Sustainable Development Goals. And I suppose we've realised that the framework of the SDGs is a great tool for volunteers to create new projects, ideas they have around sustainability, work collaboratively with other students, work with communities, especially those communities that are most marginalised, and raise those voices and amplify those voices. So we're seeing students through the framework of the goals really activating their ideas that they have for community and bringing them to fruition. So we've enjoyed running that training at the minute, and we're going to continue running that until September. We've got our Global Goals Jam to look forward to, and last year we had a huge turnout for it over the weekend. It's 3 days of working with your peers to identify a community problem that maybe needs a solution, coming together collaboratively and brainstorming, being innovative and prototyping, testing, adjusting your idea and bringing it to fruition. And just to mention, we work on campus with partners to deliver that. So we have a great volunteer program on campus in the library called Makerspace, where you can 3D print your prototype, for example. We've got colleagues who are based in the Explore unit on campus who work with our research office, who fund student innovative ideas. So we're really stitched into the fabric of student life and the student experience, and ensuring that students' appetite and interest in volunteering can be as fruitful as possible. One of the other really nice things that we've been doing online with students is supporting them to achieve their Goshka Award. Lots of students wanted to have structure to their week given COVID-19 lockdown. So Goshka has been a great way for them to earn their National Civic Medal for their commitment to community, to their own personal and professional development, and connecting with others. And finally, I just want to share a great event that we had at the end of the semester, which for us, I suppose, was quite an important landmark event and gave us a lot of confidence in this online virtual world. And it gave us the confidence to continue to work with students through online mediums. So the event was held in April, and traditionally we would have this event in the Bailey Allen Hall on campus with community groups and students and staff on campus, all sharing in a celebration of volunteering. So this year, to bring that energy to the virtual world, we invited students to come online, share their volunteer stories. We had wonderful community guests also share their stories from Galway 2020, and our colleague Brendan Smith, who's passionate about Terryland Forest Park and other environmental initiatives. And by having community voice and student voice, we brought this live ceremony to Facebook and encourage you to watch it back if you want to see some great feel-good stories of students sharing their journeys. We know that ongoing students are volunteering at this time. For example, our student radio station, Flirt FM, has been doing Trojan work from a kitchen table, which is just incredible. So a big shout out and mention to all the student volunteers who are deeply committed to their passions throughout this experience of lockdown. And I suppose we're here to support you. We continue to provide workshops and online opportunities to connect with us. And we're really excited about opening up the possibilities of what technology is giving us. So that's it from me, Lorraine. Thanks very much.
Lorraine is ever an inspiration, and I think standing in the shadows watching you over the last 15 years or so, and just to see the Alive programme evolve and adapt every year and respond to maybe different challenges or different discourses that are evolving in community and society, and I suppose most recently the Sustainable Development Goals acting as a kind of a framework on which to hang volunteering within NUI Galway. I heard you mention a few times the word innovation, and I think that's been a testament to the success of the Alive volunteering programme in terms of its sustainability on campus and its ability to innovate and to capture the imagination of students and community off campus. And I think it's also very pleasing to hear that even though term has ended, that the Alive volunteering programme continues to offer some kind of a mechanism to give students a structure to their week. And you touched on Goshka Award programme as one mechanism to do that. So thank you for your insights. And now I'm going to turn to your assistant and sidekick over the last few months, the wonderful Dara Kearns. Dara is a student and an intern. So Dara is originally from Connemara, and he's moving into his final year of the Bachelor of Science in Applied Social Sciences. So we wish him very well in his final year. Since January, Dara has been a student intern at the Live volunteering programme as part of his work placement. So he's been working to support students since January and throughout the COVID-19 period. In the future, Dara would love to work as a policy maker, and he'd like to carry out research in the area of sustainability and public policy that would allow him to give him a platform to pursue a career as a policy maker. And I think from our experience of working with Dara, any agency would be lucky to have him. So my question to Dara this evening is, Dara, as a student and intern of the Alive volunteering programme, can volunteering create a culture of empathy in your opinion?
Thanks very much, Lorraine, and thanks a million to everyone who organised this very timely webinar series as well. So I think the answer to your question, Lorraine, is that absolutely, volunteering can certainly create a culture of empathy. And the way that it does that is to basically to bring people together around particular issues. Volunteering creates spaces where people can come together and to exchange viewpoints, to exchange perspectives, basically exchange information about a particular issue. And in doing this, it creates spaces where people can listen, they can learn, and they can essentially understand where other people are coming from. And with this understanding, then they can begin to walk in their shoes, and that is essentially they're the fundamental ingredients, if you like, of empathy. So I suppose in my role over the past few months as an intern at the Alive program, I have been in a unique position to see how volunteering can do this, how volunteering can contribute to the development of empathy in society. And my role basically involves supporting the work of the Alive program and facilitating it and connecting students to various organizations in different volunteering roles and different volunteering areas. And I guess my insight into how volunteering can contribute to this development of this culture is based on two things. One, my day-to-day interaction with students, in which they would talk to me about their volunteering and I suppose express their thoughts on their volunteering and on particular subject areas or particular challenges in society. But also, I suppose my insights are based on my role in reviewing the reflective insights of students as part of their applications to the President's Award. So I would have literally gone through hundreds of these applications and seen many things that students say about their volunteering. And what you find come through a lot with these students is that they all say, many of them say that they've had maybe, depending on what the particular issue is, that they have had a certain amount of knowledge about it in the first place, but that in volunteering and engaging in the volunteering role, that their understanding develops. And they may be engaging with new information, or they may be engaging with groups of people or particular communities, but their knowledge about this particular area develops, and they can begin to understand and recognize a challenge that other people might be facing. And from this, then, that they can go on and, I suppose, connect on a deeper level with those with whom they're empathizing with. So I can think of many examples just over the past few months of some of the volunteering roles and initiatives that are good examples of this that I can draw that I've been involved with or that other students have been involved with. But perhaps a good example of one volunteering initiative that is a good example of how it can contribute to a culture of empathy is that of the Age-Friendly University Initiative. That was carried out between January and March in NUI Galway. And just a bit of context about that, the Age-Friendly University Initiative is part of a larger national programme entitled the Age-Friendly Ireland Programme. And this was established in 2013 by the Department of Health with the intention of promoting a society in which that promotes the full participation of older people in society and promotes their full inclusion in society. So Ireland at the moment is our society is aging, and that's the case with many other societies across the world. So it's in our best interest that our society is designed in this particular way. But one specific target within this program is to develop more age-friendly universities. And so to this end, then the Alive program, in collaboration with 5 second-year student volunteers as part of one of their course projects, and the Older Persons Council of Galway, we organised a series of events that we thought would pursue the development of a more age-friendly NUI Galway. And so one of the events that we organised was a campus walk, in which we would invite older members of the community to simply walk through the campus, and so that we could point out amenities that were open to them one being the Riverside Walk along the Corp, for example. But another aim of this event was so that we could gain an insight into some of the maybe invisible challenges that some members of this community might face to do with infrastructure, for example. And I guess this is the point at which we as students and the volunteers can develop a greater understanding as to some of the challenges that this particular subsection of the population might face. So, for example, if you have a curb that's perhaps a little too high or a sharp incline, or maybe on the other hand, you might have text that's too small on a directional sign or something, this may pose challenges to older people. And in participating in this particular volunteering event, students were able to see these things that maybe they hadn't seen before simply by talking to members of this community and listening to them and experiencing these challenges as they themselves experience it. And another event we organised as part of this initiative was a series of computer and technology classes in which we invited older members of the Galway community to attend the class and basically ask of the student volunteers any questions that they may have with regard to technological devices, so be that smartphones or laptops, tablets, or computers. So some of the challenges faced were simply something as what we might consider something as simple as opening up a laptop or opening up an email, or accessing internet banking. You know, you have one generation who grew up with these technologies at hand, but another generation that didn't. So the volunteering in this context created a space where this dialogue could happen and that knowledge could be shared. But to my point, I suppose what the volunteering in this situation was enabled the students to do was to, again, see challenges that other people might face and to see the world through a different lens and from a different perspective. So that happened in NUI Galway from January to March. I think it was a great success, but it's just one specific example of how volunteering can contribute and has contributed to the development of increased empathy in society. And again, the Alive program, as Lorraine Tansey was talking about a moment ago, is involved in many different other volunteering areas. You think of educational programs aimed at tackling social disadvantage, for example, or sustainable consumption, things that are tied up with implications about needing to be empathetic towards other people, because some of the things that we do have implications that are negative for other people. So that's just one way, that's one example of how volunteering can contribute to that end. And just to conclude, I just think when considering some of the challenges that we're faced with in our society in this country at the moment, and indeed in other countries, that empathy is the name of the game in terms of finding solutions to some of these challenges. I attended recently the virtual summit of the Representative Association for the Community and Voluntary Sector in Ireland, the Wheel, and aside from all the wonderful accounts of the supports that have been provided to people by the sector in recent months during the pandemic, it struck me that a number of people had suggested that the sector always has to fight for its survival and fight for resources and supports. And if, as I hope I've outlined over the past few minutes, volunteering and the sector more broadly is important in creating a culture of empathy in society, then it's really important in terms of finding solutions to some of these challenges in society that we support and resource this sector. Because if we do this, then communities where these challenges play out, they'll be equipped with more empathetic practitioners, and they'll be able to rise to the challenges. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for listening.
Tara, how wonderful to have your perspective as a student and as a professional working as an intern with the Alive volunteering programme since January of this year. Little did we know when you were rolling out the age-friendly campus initiative back in January and the whole technological component of that, when students were working with the elderly to train them up in ICT skills. Little did we know that those skills would be even more necessary come the 12th of March. So it's like as if in the Alive programme we had a premonition about the future. And I suppose from my perspective, it's particularly fascinating that from you engaging with your peers and engaging with the reflective diaries from student volunteers, that you can see volunteering engenders and supports a culture of empathy and connection. So I think empathy most certainly underpins all of the work of the Community Knowledge Initiative, the University of Sanctuary and the Alive volunteering programme. I suppose in wrapping up, what I'd like to maybe mention is the significance of the Atlantic Philanthropies in terms of developing a culture and practice of civic engagement within higher education in Ireland. Atlantic Philanthropies is a philanthropic organisation set up by the Irish-American entrepreneur and innovator Chuck Feeney, who went on to make his fortune from the duty-free system of shopping globally. And in the early 1980s, he sold his share in duty-free shopping and decided to give while living. So that became his mantra, giving while living, to community and society to create change. Chuck Feeney had read a very short essay by the steel tycoon Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie had written this very short essay in the late 1800s called Wealth. And Andrew's message to the world through this essay, it was like a historic blog, if you like, was don't wait until you die to give to community and society. Do it while you're alive and make change while you're alive. So Chuck Feeney really took that to heart and decided after he sold his share in Atlantic Philanthropies that he would give away all of his money to community and society. So he has heavily invested in all kinds of projects, particularly on the island of Ireland, given his Irish-American background. So he gave a lot of money to the peace process and the building of democracy in Northern Ireland. But he did give NUI Galway 1.6 million to establish the Community Knowledge Initiative in the early 2000s. He gave it at a time when the Celtic Tiger was raging and there was this perception on the island of Ireland that maybe levels of social capital were declining. So the wealth of connection that existed between people in terms of their relationships was declining. And the CKI was established as a way to counteract a sense of a decline of social capital among the student body at NUI Galway. So this funding really allowed us at the university to be innovative, to listen to the needs of community and to work with community where we had the knowledge and the resources to collaborate together. So 15 years ago, I'm not sure if somebody had given us a blueprint or a design plan for the CKI, if the University of Sanctuary would have been part of it, or if the age-friendly campus might have been part of it. So in a way, we've evolved with the community in terms of our most pressing challenges that exist around us. And I guess the CKI has allowed us to open a gateway between the university and the wider community. But I just want to honour Atlantic Philanthropies because not only did they catalyse action at NUI Galway, but through the funding of the CKI at NUI Galway, it allowed us to catalyse a commitment to civic and community engagement among all higher education institutions across the island of Ireland. So in 2007, we attained funding from the Irish government, from the Higher Education Authority, to set up a national network for higher education institutions in Ireland to develop a culture of volunteering, community engaged learning, engaged research, and working with our most vulnerable within society. That network is still in existence. It's now based at the Irish Universities Association in Dublin. It's overseen by the 8 presidents of the 8 universities, and it's funded on an annual basis by the 8 universities. So it's in a very sustainable situation. And in addition, in 2011, the Higher Education Authority gave developed a new policy for higher education moving to 2030. And for the first time ever, this policy positioned engagement with community and society as a core pillar for higher education moving forward to 2030. So I think what Chuck Feeney allowed us to catalyse through his philanthropic efforts have not only had a local impact, but also a national impact in terms of the work that we do across the sector in Ireland. Lorraine Tansey mentioned that there's an equivalent of her in every institution in Ireland, so somebody who will coordinate student volunteering, but that wasn't the case 15 years ago. So the existence of Chuck Feeney's funding, Campus Engage, the commitment of leadership in the various higher education institutions and higher education policy has allowed us to get to a place where there are human resources on each campus, as well as centres coordinating efforts to engage higher education institutions with community and society. If you want to learn any more about our work in all of these pathways that have been presented this evening, I invite you to take a look at our website, the Community Knowledge Initiative website, which is www.nuigalway.ie/CKI. Please get in touch with us if you'd like additional detail or clarity on our work as it evolves. I would like to thank the conveners of this series for giving us the opportunity this evening to talk about two of our pathways. In particular, I'd like to thank Professor Pat Dolan, UNESCO Chair and Director of the Institute for Life Course in Society, Gillian Brown, who organised us all, and David Brandt for his technological support. I'd also like to thank the wonderful Catherine and Lorraine for their great job in terms of signage this evening. I'd like to thank the audience for being with us and hearing our contributions. And I would sincerely like to thank my colleagues and friends here this evening who have shared their perspectives on the amazing work that they are doing and committed to. And they've invested significant time in terms of preparing for this evening. And I would like to thank you all for being with us. So thanks again, and looking forward to getting comments from people in the future.